All right, this is dream 5. It's a simple, short dream. Um, and one I kind of struggled with, I think, because of the violent tendency, I guess, of the dream. But in this dream, I was in a town on a work meeting, and so I was with a bunch of coworkers. And in the town, there was a parade going on, and it was a very flamboyant, crazy, wild kind of party out in the streets. And they'd set up booths on either side of the street for vendors to sell their shirts and their masks and guns and everything else. And so the parade and stuff, they were getting ready for it. And there was a group of extremists that wanted to ruin the parade, and they didn't want it to continue. We weren't on the street at the time. We were in a work meeting on a third story of this shop. So through the window you could see, and they had a balcony in the restaurant as well, that you could go out and see all the stuff going out on the street. But it was just wild and crowded and busy, and we were eating, and we'd finished our meeting, and when we finished, there was a bunch of food left over, which I felt terrible about. Like, it was such a waste, you know? We should probably take it and give it to someone or something. I don't know. But you just don't want to throw all this food away. But it was time to leave. And so we got up to leave this meeting, and we got down onto the street. And before we could leave, one of my coworkers wanted to go and get a gun at the booth because it was a good price. He wanted to get a deal. So we went down there and traded in some raffles, and he picked up a long scoped rifle that was very similar to a Barrett sniper rifle. And he got that. And while he was making his deal at this booth to get that, I went over across the street and sat in a church chapel. And while I was in there, things started to get wild outside. Because I was getting wild, my coworker ran in with his gun, essentially expressed that it was time to get out of there because the extremists were starting to throw things in the way and ruining the parade and making a big mess of everything and breaking stuff. You know, rioting and ruining stuff. That's what they wanted to do. And so we wanted to get out of there because it was getting wild. And so we went outside and we were able to get to a Jeep so that we could leave. And even though we got to this Jeep, we were sitting there with a Jeep, which is a powerful instrument, and a rifle that was a powerful instrument, but no one would move out of our way. We could not get out of there without injuring or killing someone. And then that was the end of the dream. So it seems that, at least when I look at this dream, parades, they're obviously public expressions of like identity or community. It's pretty normal and good. But in this one, there was a presence of like this extremist group that they were trying to ruin it. And so in my case, it seems to, and I'm still trying to work through this one, but it seems to represent this feeling that my personal values or a peaceful environment that I enjoy is under attack from outside pressures or conflicting opinions, which we can definitely see. In any number of ways in any person's life, there's always going to be some type of influence or attack on the fun expressions of your identity that you may have. And then there was this very poignant gun or sniper rifle in the dream. And weapons often represent in dreams this desire for protection or power or control over a situation. Which in this case, obviously, I was not in control of the situation in any like non-violent, overpowering kind of way. And people would not let us leave. But there was this weapon. And so, yeah, grabbing that seems to it suggested this feeling or need for a long range solution or a way to deal with threats before they got too close. And so I had to wake up and start looking for, like, okay, what is this threat that I can see from a really long way off that I need to protect myself from, or my people from. Nothing was super clear at the time, but yeah, it just seems like I had this feeling of a threat moving in. But when we went out on the streets, the threats were really close. We couldn't get away because they were pressing in on our vehicle. They were pressing in on us, and so it was difficult to go anywhere. I also had this situation where when I would look through the scope, the vision was fuzzy. It was almost like I was missing my glasses. And this seems to point to this feeling of being unprepared or lacking clarity when I wake up, which coincidentally, here I am looking at this dream like, what is this threat that's moving towards me? I'm not clear. But it was letting me know in the dream, yeah, it's not clear to you, but it's there. And so I probably need to look for tools in my life to come to understand or know how to handle problems. I seem to lack skills. It's essentially inviting me to sharpen my vision so that I can see things, because I need some precise information or perspective so that I can figure out what's this issue. And I need to know how to use these things effectively. The fact that I went and I sat in a chapel was significant because chapels, during a very chaotic event, represent this search for sanctuary. Quasimodo runs to the chapel and he screams, I guess it was Esmeralda screamed for sanctuary. Anyway, they also provide moral guidance, where it's a place where you can reflect amidst chaotic situations. Essentially, all of these symbols showed up in my dream, and there was no resolution in it, but it was chaotic, and there were dangers, and I needed to be prepared. And then the question in the end of the dream was essentially, well, what do we do? Do we run people over? Do we start shooting people so we can get out of here? This essentially put the power to solve the situation within my grasp, and the choice was mine on how to handle it, knowing what the dangers actually were so that I can make wise decisions on how to get out of there, were in my hands. Comparing it to other dreams, like where I'm chased by a dragon, it was a little late. I was very reactive. I didn't have tools. I could only run in that dream with the tools that I had. This one was a little different, where I have the tools in my disposal to make different decisions and choices, and it wasn't quite clear what I needed to do. So, if you have any thoughts on that one, let me know. That was a dream that was helpful to me to wake up and start thinking, hey, what kind of tools do I need so that I can see my life situation clearer, so that I can make more prudent decisions. All right, cool. Have a good one.